Well, folks, when Kathy Swan gets mad, Kathy Swan gets desperate. And that's what's been happening for the last week and a half across District number 27, guys, as Kathy Swan is doing everything she can to whitewash her record of opposing your gun rights. My name is Aaron Dorr, the Missouri Firearms Coalition. And if you live in Madison, Wayne, Scott, Cape Girardeau, Perry, or Bollinger County, you have got to hear this video before the upcoming August primary. Guys, everybody knows in Missouri, in 2016, we passed a monumental expansion of our gun rights. Constitutional carry, stand your ground law, expanded castle doctrine provisions, protection for our veterans who had expired permits because they were on deployment, and a whole lot more. This was our bill from inception. We wrote this bill with then Representative Eric Burleson, he's now a state senator, and championed that bill all the way through the process, all the way until the very end when we overrode then Governor Nixon's veto. I'm going to kind of pull the curtain back now. It might be a little bit boring for some of you. If that's the case, that's okay. You can scroll on by this video. But you have to know, if you're a gun owner, exactly just how much Kathy Swan is trying to play gun owners. She thinks that you're all dumb, gullible, stupid gun owners who are going to believe her and her campaign team when they say, my record is the exact same as Holly Rader's. That is an absolute lie, and we're going to show you guys that in this video. You know, when it comes to passing legislation, the final floor vote is usually the easiest part. That's where they've already had the committee process, or 2 committees, or 3 committees. It's already been whipped, which means the leadership team asks their members if you're going to be a yes vote or a no vote. They don't want to be embarrassed and put their own bill on the floor, right, and not have enough votes to pass it. And all the deals have been cut. All the backroom stuff is done. When a bill gets to the floor for passage, it's usually the easiest part of the entire legislative process. Now, in 2016, again, we had this monumental expansion of gun rights, and it passed on the floor of the House late in the last day of session, May 14, 2016, and then it was promptly vetoed by, again, then Governor Nixon. Missouri Firearms Coalition spent all summer and early fall in 2016 mounting pressure on politicians to override Governor Nixon's veto of this bill. You guys, perhaps, if you've been around on this channel for a long time, you can still see our videos from 2016 with Eric Burleson and others urging you guys to call, email, Facebook message, and meet with your local politicians and insist that they override this veto. At the time, Michael Bloomberg was flooding Missouri airwaves with pressure trying to stop us. The media was losing their mind all across the state trying to stop us, and it was a real big fight. Now, the math on this is as follows. We had to have 109 state reps, and we had to have 109 state reps add their name on that list. They would override Governor Nixon's veto. We had 116 Republicans in the caucus at that time. So we could only afford to lose a handful, just a handful. And then we had some real weird circumstances. One state rep got involved in a near-death car accident, and he announced he wasn't going to come back for the veto override session. Other state reps lost their August primary, and they were angry, and they announced they also weren't going to come back for the veto override session. And so all of a sudden, we were whittling away. We lost one here, we lost a couple here, and all of a sudden, we were at basically the magic number of 109, and we couldn't afford to lose anybody if we wanted to override Governor Nixon's veto. And that's why when Kathy Swan came out in the news just 3 days before that override session and announced that she did not think she could support overriding Governor Nixon's veto, it was a death punch almost on this bill. Kathy Swan waited until 3 days before the override to come out and say, I don't think I'm going to vote for this. And she knew that the whip count was right down to the wire. She knew we couldn't afford to lose anybody, almost anybody. She also knew that if she would lead the charge against this bill, that others might follow. That's exactly what happened. And don't take my word for it. We went back and printed this off. You can find it for yourself. This is the Southeast Missourian.com, SE Missourian.com. That's their URL. That's their website. You can see right here, Tuesday, September 13, 2016, area lawmakers unsure how they'll vote on concealed carry bill in veto session. Now, I want to be really clear on what that means. In politics, if you talk like that, that's a, nah, I'm a no. They don't have to say I'm a no. It's just very simple. When the entire caucus is heading this direction to override the governor's veto, when she says, I'm not sure, that's an absolute problem. That's an absolute problem. So Kathy Swan led that charge against the override. Did all she could to bring more people onto her bandwagon to oppose the override, and others did. If you've been watching our Facebook page for the last couple of days, or Holly Rader's, or Kathy Swan's, you'll see the name Donna Lichtenegger all over. All over. Donna is an embittered, angry soul who's no longer in elected office in Jeff City. And the minute Kathy Swan came out opposing this bill, then so did Donna. And this began to snowball, and it began to snowball more and more and more. And Kathy Swan did everything she could to get enough members to oppose the override to possibly stop the bill. Again, you can find the article for yourself. SEMissourian.com. You're going to have to pay to get past the paywall, which I did. Still bitter about that. But hey, and you can see it for yourself, SEMissourian.com, September 13, 2016. She's unsure. And then she goes on to say, later on here, Swan says she wants to see legislation that would allow cities and counties to regulate concealed weapons as they see fit. Let's be clear on what that means. What constitutional carry did was allow you to carry a firearm without having to beg permission from the state or pay fees or add your name to a government database. And it's valid statewide. What Kathy Swan, right here, you can zoom in for yourself and see what Kathy Swan said she wants is a patchwork quilt system where St. Louis can have their own gun laws, Columbus can have their own gun laws, Kansas City, Springfield, Jeff City, fill in the blank. And pretty soon, every gun owner in Missouri would be terrified if they're going to travel out of town. Oh my gosh, can I carry in this town? Can I carry in that town? How do we know? What's the law? What's the rules? We don't know. That's what Kathy Swan just about got done in 2016. She about took a sledgehammer to this bill. She tried and she failed, but she did everything she could to oppose your gun rights. Now, you might be asking yourself, or if you're one of her sycophants, you may be saying, see, she voted the right way. No, she did, but you're not given the full story. She only did so because Kathy got flooded with calls and emails from angry gun owners in her district, because the minute this story went live, MOFC went on our Facebook page, and you can still see our targeted memes on our Facebook page today from September of 2016, and we put Kathy Swan's cell phone number on a meme, which we boosted into her district, and we said, call her, call her. And hundreds of gun owners called Kathy Swan and said, you vote the right way on this or pay the price in your next election. And again, you don't have to take my word for it. Here's the next article from the SoutheastMissourian.com. This one's dated Friday, September 16. So 4 days after the first article. This was 2 days after the one-day override session. And it says, Cape Girardeau County's 2 Republican state representatives voted with the majority of their colleagues Wednesday to override Governor Jay Nixon's veto of a concealed carry bill. Both lawmakers, Donna Lichtenegger and Kathy Swan, came under intense pressure from gun rights supporters and after publicly saying on Monday they were unsure how they would vote in Wednesday's veto override session. Both lawmakers expressed concerns with legislation before the veto session. So when Kathy Swan tells you with a straight face that she did the right thing, that she voted for this gun bill, she only did so because she was being inundated with pressure from gun owners in her own district. And so when she says that her record, that her support for your gun rights is the same as Holly Rader's, Kathy Swan is a liar. Here's what we never did in 2016. We never had to put pressure on Holly Rader. We never had to do memes in Holly Rader's district. We never had to contact her and say, what the heck are you doing? We never had to wonder if she was going to derail an entire legislative program or not, because Holly Rader was 100% pro-gun and 100% in support of, and she fought for, constitutional carry and stand your ground law. I hope this deep dive shows you the games that can be played in the Capitol and how they can, how many different ways they have to attack a bill without actually voting no. Kathy Swan voted yes on that bill for one reason. She knew that 4 years later, she was going to run for the state Senate. And she knew correctly, you're right, Kathy, that if she voted no on that bill, that this organization would excoriate her in her district. And if she voted no, we'd have done exactly that. She did the next best thing. She worked as hard as she could behind the scenes to kill that bill, and she failed. She failed. And one last note, this bill also dealt with our veterans. This is what made her actions almost unconscionable to so many people of her own colleagues in the House. We added amendments onto this bill to make it better and to give us more policy gains. One of those amendments dealt with veterans, Missouri veterans who returned home from deployment, who all of a sudden saw that their concealed carry permit was expired. Everybody knows what a pain that is. And one of the things we had on this bill stated that for returning veterans, they had, and I forget, it was either 30 days or 60 days of an automatic renewal once they got home for their permit to be reinstated for those 1 or 2 months while they sought a regular renewal of their permit. That was on the bill, and Kathy Swan still tried to tank it in the last couple of days before the veto override session. So again, guys, this is kind of a deep dive in the details, but there's a lot of different ways that anti-gun politicians can trip up or stop or block a gun bill, especially when it involves a veto override like this. Kathy Swan did everything she could to kill this bill, and she failed. And now she's doing everything she can to try to convince you, to try to convince us gun owners that she's pro-gun. She's not. She never has been. Holly Rader, 100% in her survey, and a history of fighting for gun rights in Jeff City. So as you decide who to vote for in the upcoming session, the upcoming election rather, we can't tell you who to vote for. That's not our purview. We can give you the facts. And as you just saw, the facts are pretty obvious. Kathy Swan is an enemy to your Second Amendment freedoms.